Oh, hey, what's going on, guys? What's happening? Let me turn that back on. And down a little bit. How's everyone doing? Good evening. Absolutely nobody. Welcome to Cult of Color. My name is Joe/Nomad. I'll be your colorist this evening. This is the final week of Color Grading 101, and today we're going to talk anew about delivery and encoding for, say, YouTube, for instance, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you want. And we're going to do a quick refresher on Gyroflow and talk about some more detailed settings if your machine has a horsepower for it. And we're going to watch a bunch of really amazing cinematic videos from across the internet. Some of my favorite pilots. They put together some really great work. So, welcome one and all. Not here for long. Wanted to drop in and say hello. Hey, what's up, Car Guy for Life? What's happening, dog? Yeah, Bart. I said my little greeting to pretty much nobody. So, thanks. I guess everybody's at Shelby Bull's stream, which is cool. I should set this stream up to just drop you guys over there, but it is what it is. Okay, I need to do something about this here. Hold on. Hang on a minute. Okay. There we go. Now I won't feel like I'm having to scream. So yes, we are going to take a look at, yes, and we'll of course send your submission. That's one of the videos from across the internet. You're one of my favorite pilots. So, I mean, don't sell yourself short, dog. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to get into some videos, some vidges, as I like to say. And first up is Moab Blaster. It's kind of, a lot of these are pretty old, but they're some of my favorites. Let me, okay, hold on, I got it. Okay, all right, I think we're good. All right, so up first, Moab Blaster. It's got a little bit of logging in the beginning of it, but it's very explanatory to what this guy had to go through in order to get these shots. Combination of your typical FPV, like with a GoPro, and then I think he was flying an Air 2S with an Insta360 or something of that nature. He had a 360 camera and was able to utilize it to great creativity. So here we go.
It started raining while I was mid-flight. Just don't want to be the only thing out there with the lightning. Got really real out here.
Spooky. So as usual, be sure to make sure you're liking and subscribing and all that stuff. YouTube is a liar. This is Moab, Utah, southern Utah, if y'all don't know. I am going to crush this summer. I believe it's on our list. Now, I don't know about arches. I thought that was a national monument, which there isn't expressly a no-fly zone there, but I've seen so many drone shots there, I'm sure it's fine. It's not like you can break it with a drone. Yo, Flexo, you figure out gravity yet, or? Hey, no worries, man. I appreciate you stopping and saying hi. This probably took him a serious long time to put together. Yeah, location, location, location. You can have the basic, most basic flight skills, but if you go someplace epic, you're pretty much set. So this guy's got a little bit more than basic flight skills. Though I'm not a huge fan of all the speed ramps he uses, just because it defies the purpose of motion blur, but like some of these super proxy tight shots are just absolutely amazing. Break my brain a little bit. And storms rolling in out there. Yeah, he got some big old stones. Either that or he doesn't know any better. I've seen that too. Alright, so next up, Johnny FPV. I think I've played this one on this channel before. I think I've played both of these on this channel. I don't know. We'll see. This is Turkey. In case you didn't recognize the flag, it's not North Carolina. The sound design is really good here. That guy looked like he was running for his life. Of course, it's like, holy shit, what is that? I think I remember seeing some behind the scenes when he was shooting out here. Like he did some long range and lost his drone on top of a building and had to just like hike his way out there to go get it. Ruins. Plays backwards a lot. A lot of these feel like cinelifter shots because they're tighter than like a normal GoPro. The field of view is not quite as wide. So I feel like he's got like maybe a 9mm. Not to mention the freaking wide, ultra wide. Good stuff. Bonus. Oh, the sound design is so good there. Always got to have that roll, right? Nice. Another one from Johnny FPV. I think this is the one that I posted or played here. Abu Dhabi. I don't fly backwards enough. I've played that level on Trip FPV before. I'm curious what he had to do to get like permission to fly. Seems like an easy way to get tossed in the clink. I've never been to Abu Dhabi, so who knows? See, playing inside this place, I have no idea how we got away with it. Just seems like something you shouldn't do. But I mean, he is Johnny FPV, so... Oh, he's riding a wave, okay. Wow, that's pretty. Nice. Boop, boop. And next up, everyone's favorite. This is a couple years old now. I was kind of surprised because I feel like it came out like 6 months ago. Ever since the pandemic, it seems like the last 3 years are recent, so. Because I'm another one of my favorite pilots. He's obnoxiously good at what he does. Man, that is so cool. Going through the spiral there.
Like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the wake up, get out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in a cage, never let out the I hear him check to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him check with the boys, man so tough, but man's keep walking. Just too sharp with the prize, white girls, let it tell me. Beg, please get on your knees. Came from the jungle, up in the
Man,
trees. I got a few tricks
staying with
up in
that
the
football
sleeve.
is insane.
Move, I'ma let out the shoes, check out the crease. Roll out the bit, step on the beat. Make a man's run till he step out the cleats. When the whole place scream, gotta get out the. Yeah, I hear him check to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him check with the boys. Man so tough, but man's keep walking.
Remember this? He almost got clobbered by the bowling ball there.
Stop that. Stop that. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. And stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Nice keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. Don't tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pine. If you wanna touch me, please use caution.
Good old Nurk. Next up, Ellis Van Jason. I was really impressed with this show reel he dropped last year. Kind of pissed me off, but such an excellent pilot, excellent editor. Hey, what's up, Marcel? Good to see you, man. Formula E goodness. I got to hang out with Bottas. He was driving for Alfa, well, before Alfa Romeo became Steak Kick Sauber or whatever the fuck they're called now. Such a good show reel. Yeah, it's almost too much. Like, you got to watch it several times to catch everything. Really, really good one. Let's see, got that one. So, Sir M Productions. This was another excellent show reel in 2023. I think most of you guys will recognize it. I know it's been played on a number of streams. This specific shot is much longer by itself. So this is like what most people recognize, but then you get into this and it's pretty heady stuff. Bartman tattoo on his leg. I love it. Talk about somebody who's got a lot of stones. Oh, wow. Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, huh? This video has very intricate sound design. Too much fun. We could do cinematic show reels all night long. So it looks like we got a couple of submissions from the Bartman dude himself. The McGap FPV bucket list of mine accomplished in St. Petersburg, I'm guessing. St. Paul, Minnesota. Okay. It's weird to see you flying around at day in the daytime. Yeah, put it together. Been working on the whole reading thing. Looks pretty good, dude. This is relatively recent, yeah. Come on, go through the arches. And wear sunglasses while flying. I don't think your goggles are quite that bright. Do it. Oh yeah, I know how that is. St. Paul's pretty. It looks busy though. Yeah, I can imagine. Do it. Oh, there you go. Done and done. Hey, Bob. What's going on, man? Thanks for stopping in, dude. Doing some suburban long range there, Bart. Bunch of solar. It's downtown. Cool. But like 600 feet. What is that next to the springboard? It looked like a covered up swimming pool. You going through it again? it. Do it. Come on, split S it. Nice. Under 400 feet and exactly 99 miles an hour, just like me. Can I guess that that's your vehicle? I hope so. No, I really hope so. Very cool, Bart. Thanks for the submission, man. Color looks really good, too. Yeah, like, I have, like, no complaints, so looks really good. Did a good job on that one. I will tell you, though, when you're wanting to hit small, tiny gaps like that, if you hyper focus on the obstacle, you're going to hit the obstacle. If you're constantly thinking in your head, don't hit the thing, don't hit the thing, don't hit the thing, you're going to hit the thing. So my recommendation is focus on the gap. Hit the gap, hit the gap, hit the gap, hit the gap. Don't think about what you shouldn't do. Think about what you should do and look where you want to go. Don't look at the obstacle. Look where you want to go. I've learned that one the hard way. So we got another one from Bart. Video from an 03 that you practiced editing on, all auto. Before I was confident enough to set manual. Fair enough, dude. You get to see how much you've grown, right? Ooh, ultra wide. That's kind of a nice thing about the 03. Like, almost by default, it's at least 100 frames per second, 120 frames per second if you're, you know, if you just fly it out of the box. So you get nice, like, oh, I didn't know I captured slow-mo. That's really pretty, dude. Dude, I dicked around with iMovie on my iPhone like last week, and it hasn't changed since like 2007. I was not impressed. I mean, I guess it would be cool to like cut stuff together and export it out to you know, pick up later in Final Cut, but zero applicability to my workflow. I wonder how long it is till you hit a bird. Yeah, iMovie does definitely has no color grading features whatsoever. It's got filters, but applied the vertical video annoyed with, but well, that's cool. Yeah, I did drop by your live. I didn't have an opportunity to say anything, Marcel, but I did see your live. That was pretty cool. Yeah, that's neat. So you had the GoPro on sideways, I guess? Yeah, we can definitely see how far you've come, Bart. So well done there. That was very enjoyable. A very pretty location, especially as the sun was going down. The lamps were turned on. That was really awesome. Okay, so here we go. Let me take another quick look. Nobody else has dropped anything in there. Fair enough. Let's get into it. We're going to take another look at Gyroflow. Just some specific things that I do in my workflow to make sure that it's mostly about the corners. Let me see if I can bring up this document real quick here. Nope, not. Wait, yes. 2022, maybe? Oh. Oh, assets. There we go. So chroma subsampling. It's a way that popular compression codecs can save on data by sort of combining multiple pixels into the same color. And when you talk about chroma and luminance separately, like if you look at YUV here, let me see if I can pop this up bigger here. If you look at YUV, like these look like two different colors because one has more luminance than the other. Same with these two shades of yellow, these two shades of blue, so on and so forth. Come down here, same idea, right? These all look like they're the same color, or that they look like different colors because they have different luminance values, but they are in fact the same chrominance value. So the most popular, like when you watch your TV, watch an Apple TV or Android TV or whatever, you're watching movies, Netflix, you're looking at 420. You use your computer, chances are you're looking at 444. So GoPros shoot 420. I'm kicking and screaming for them to either support ProRes or Blackmagic RAW or something like that, some 422 format. It's kind of a halfway in between. Not a whole lot of cameras support 444. It's just a shit ton of data that nobody really needs. But we can actually use 444 as an intermediate format to protect the corners of our GoPro or O3 footage, because when they get stretched out, those pixels get elongated. They get turned into skinny diamonds down on the corners. Let me see, where is the... So this is what it looks like. So the pink is our stretched out, this is just an example that I made in Photoshop. The pink is our stretched out GoPro image, and the purple is how we're sampling that image into a 16:9 frame. Okay, so in the center here, the pixels almost line up perfectly, but as you go out, you can see you got these lines called moire, right? And then if you look really close, the pixels get squished out into diamonds, and then they have to be rasterized into a grid. And so what ends up happening when you have 420 chroma subsampling is you're going to end up with 4 pixels that are going to be the same color, the same chrominance, and the same luminance, because you're sampling that diamond shaped. Because the way it's doing it, Gyroflow is using shaders, so the pixels can have odd shapes. So what we want to do is make sure that when we export, we're exporting in a 444 format so that we protect all of these little differences. So if you look at the diamond here, there's a small bit that's like blue, and there's a bit that's red, and so on and so forth, right? So we want to protect those little differences. That's going to create that the sharpness and detail in the corners. If we don't, then it becomes soft. That's really the only downside, right? Because we are throwing everything out here. We're throwing all of that away. I mean, this whole thing kind of wiggles around to make sure that it stays stabilized. Let me drop a file there. Sure, why not? Whatever. I gotta load the lens profile. So as far as the actual Gyroflow, I struggle to say Gyroflow, man. I should probably bring up that funny video when I was trying to do a tutorial for TikTok. It was like 7 minutes of fuck ups. Hilarious. The settings don't really change for Gyroflow. Do my usual 50 to 100 millisecond stabilization window, and zooming speed 1 second, or in this case it might do half a second. just to make sure that we get as much as possible. So hitting this little stabilization overview toggle, we can get kind of an idea of what that looks like. Oh, that's not going to help me. I wanted the one. That's the actual field of view. So you can see these, like this is way more extreme than what I created in Photoshop. Like we're getting rid of a lot, but these pixels are super stretched. But even these pixels that we're still going to capture here are super stretched. And if we capture them in a 420 chroma subsampling, we're going to be giving up detail in the colors that we honestly want to use. So we want to capture those. It's almost like taking a picture of them. We want to take a picture of them with 444 chroma subsampling so that even though they're shaped funny and it's still going to be a little bit soft, we're going to get as much data as possible. So basically, the concept is called signal integrity. We don't want to throw any data away until we get to delivery. And that's the other part that we're talking about today. When you actually render out your file, you're doing away with everything else that you could use to grade, to edit, right? You're throwing that stuff away in that final copy. So, but we want to maintain all of the original captured data from camera all the way through until we finally hit render for that final export. So this is the first step for drone video that goes through Gyroflow. We want to maintain that. So we want to maintain our signal integrity through our entire pipeline. Any questions so far? Am I losing everybody? I notice I still have 3 viewers, so you're either drooling into your keyboards or you're actually interested. Let me know. But my monitor's in the... Can't see because the stupid heart's in the way. Not helping, YouTube. Monitors in... Oh, I see. Okay. So I've found, and I can actually show this to you in here. Gyroflow's got a neat little feature. For those of you who want to do vertical video, if you have a Hero 11 or 12 with an 8x7 sensor, has a lot of vertical resolution. So if you look at the original file, 4648 is vertical resolution, as opposed to 2160 if we were just capturing in regular 4K. So on the export over here, you can pick like resolutions. By default, it's 4K. But there's also 9x16. And if I select 9x16, I get a vertical resolution, but also it reformats the stretching to maximize the amount of pixels I get in that vertical. And it's way wider than if I just did a vertical crop from a 16:9 video that's already been through Gyroflow. So if you're into vertical video and you want to get the most out of it without having to print a vertical mount for a GoPro, you have a Hero 11 or 12, take advantage of that tall sensor and just flip that in Gyroflow. So that's over here on this little gear icon. And then there's like a slightly ultra wide version that I messed with. I wish there was a, wider, but there's also 4x3, but stabilized 480p is the best you get. And you can drop out a square version if you want. But yeah, that 9x16, super skookum. Really convenient to have. I haven't seen a lot of people use it, and I was just, like I've seen people with Heroes 11 and 12, like buying or printing vertical mounts for their drones, and it's almost unnecessary. The difference between the amount of pixels you get vertically mounting versus stretching it the correct direction is very minimal. But to each their own, I guess, right? So back to what we were talking about, chroma subsampling. And that's going to all come down to how we export. So you got your export settings here, you got your resolution, your codec, your bit rate. If you have an NVIDIA card, you can use HEVC with an obscene bit rate and get, good enough quality. Basically, it's going to be lossless because you really only have to be above 160 or whatever your bit rate your camera's recording at. And that means above that peak and average. So But if you just want to like throw everything you got at it and make sure that any, nothing is lost, then you can just crank the bit rate on it. And then in advanced, you're going to add these fun little commands. Oh, God. Because I got display scaling on multiple monitors. What I want to do is blow this up here. Wait, don't I have a magnifier? Yeah, look at that. I have no idea how the fuck that works. Shit. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So, I could drop these in the chat in the Discord if you want to mess with these. This is for, well, I mean, it will work on any machine. But these flags are specifically for NV encode or NVENC. Do you think about using Gyroflow and setting it stable enough and leaving some of this black screen to show up, but hiding it by scaling the video up enough to hide parts? So essentially, you're doing manually what Gyroflow already does. So Gyroflow will always tries to give you the widest field of view, and you can change the window, the speed at which it does its zooming. But you're not gonna. There's nothing you're gonna do manually that Gyroflow is not already doing for you if you just leave it at default. There are some exceptions to that. Some cameras act a little weird, and you need to widen out the field of view a little bit. But I don't see any reason why you'd want to do that with like a GoPro. So look at these little values here. So profile 2, it just means we're going to be using there's different profiles in the encoder for like a baseline of settings, I guess. Profile 2 is the one we need in order to enable the pixel format 444 16-bit. Yeah, Marcel. I would recommend that. Okay, I can't touch that at all. That's annoying. Okay. So I'd recommend smoothness set to 0.1 and zooming speed set to 1. Try that and let me know what you think. That's all you got to do. Now, if you want to go one more step, you go advanced under your dynamic zooming and make sure that the zooming method is envelope follower. It works fine. You just need to tune it is all. Like, you can stabilize S-Bang where you still have the super, jarring change in direction, but anytime it's not being jarring, it's smooth. And that would be in the advanced settings here, where you can stabilize each axis individually. You can change the stabilization window on each axis if you want. But the thing of it is here, like maximum smoothness at high velocity, if you crank that down, it will not stabilize if you're sbanging whatever, right? It's only going to care about velocities that are lower or lower than the threshold for what high velocity is. This is, you used to be able to turn this off, but this is the thing that's always on. It's just by default. I forget what the default is for this. So the default's 100 milliseconds. But yeah, if you wanted to make sure your super hard twists, turns, flips, and everything are as crispy as they would be, not stabilized, take your smoothness and high velocity all the way down. It's as simple as that. And then envelope follower will make the zooming a little bit more pleasing. It'll look nothing like real steady, where you're flying and then you feel like there's a rushing forward before there's a turn. It's zooming ahead. In envelope follower, it's going to start sliding the focus of the stabilization towards where it's going to turn. The stream freeze? No, I don't think so. What? I can still see myself. Flexo, did you break gravity again? Oh, as far as I can tell, it's still working. So, I don't know, dude. Sorry. Yeah, okay. Anyway, so this ridiculous setting here, like, I'm not going to get too into the weeds on pixel formats, but there is like a kind of an end-all be-all for pixel formats for H.265, and it's YUV, which is the color space, 444, which is the chroma subsampling, P for progressive, 16 little endian, and I say endian like ender, not Indian like Indian. Little endian just indicates how it stores the data in the byte order. It's what's called a truncated 16-bit, so it's still 10-bit video. But during the processing, it's going to write 16-bit values, and then those values will be truncated when it writes the file. And then RC is rate control. We're going to use constant bit rate HQ. It's not technically a constant bit rate like with H.264, but it's going to give you more of a preference towards whatever bit rate's in here for your maximum bit rate. So basically, if I didn't have that there, if this file came out at like, let's just say it came out as a gig, right? And then I add this here, do it again, same bit rate here, it's going to be 2 gigs. Basically, it'd be twice as big. That's if you want to use H.265. It's only going to be really effective and useful if you have kind of a monster GPU, especially if you're going to try to do 8K. This is 1.5.4. Yep, right up here. This is 154. So under zooming, you got to click advanced. So when it's closed, it's going to be the advanced that's right over rolling shutter correction. Can you find it, Marcel? That's weird. So as I was saying, like H.265 can be faster than the other option I'm going to show you. But that's assuming you've got a fairly beefy GPU. Oh, good. I'm glad, Flexo. Maybe there was just some delay in the gravity waves. Hey. Yeah, so if it can't use your GPU, it's going to pop up and ask you to use your CPU. Don't do that unless you want to spend a week with your CPU at 100%. Don't bother. Yeah. So there you go, Marcel. I guess I just assumed it was there because I always have dynamic zooming on. So especially if you're on Mac, the better option is just to use ProRes. And if you want 444, you can use its 4444, which is 444 chroma subsampling with 4-bit alpha channel. So this supports transparency. The file does, Gyroflow does not, but it'll encode that. If you want to get stupid, you can use XQ extreme quality, which will essentially be lossless. Now really it's just those 3 things, Marcel. I would try that and do a quick export, see what you think about it. Because I mean, you've never, like, as far as I know, you've never had any complaints about the stabilization I use in my videos because I use very little. But I also use those settings, usually 50 to 100 millisecond window. And I use that envelope follower, which gets rid of the rushing feeling as you're approaching a turn. So your mileage may vary. It is up to your preferences. You can take the stabilization very down, for everything. But that secondary, that advanced maximum smoothing at high velocity, that's going to be how you can still do bang, but make sure everything else is smooth. So yeah, if you're on a Mac, or if you hate your life, on a PC, you can use ProRes. It's going to crank out an enormous file. So like this would be 50 gigs or something ridiculous like that. So yeah, your mileage may vary. Use HEVC. You know, this file. This is 9. So this probably be about 12 to 16 gigs, I would guess. At the end of the file. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, no problem, Marcel. Let me know how that turns out, dude. So yeah, pixel format is kind of a big deal. Basically, we just want to make sure we're using a format that is 444. There's also DNX HD, and there's the subset of DNX HR, which is for 4K and above. It also has a 444 chroma subsampling. This is 12-bit as opposed to 10-bit with HEVC, so you could get really anal about your colors. Also generates enormous files, but essentially DNX HR is the Windows version of ProRes, since Windows is not technically licensed to use ProRes. So I don't know how they do it here. I don't know if Apple changed their policy or not, but it used to be you could not encode ProRes on a Windows machine. So DNX Avid came out with DNX HR, which is essentially just a generic ProRes with a lot of the same features. But then Apple's like, hold my iPhone, and came out with this fucking horse shit. I mean, it's like a 64-bit image, so it's ridiculous. Yes. So using that chroma subsampling, that extra chroma subsampling, is going to help you maintain the detail in the corners. But also, obviously, you're going to get more color information. You're going to have a lot more flexibility. If there's any additional exposure data that's in the original camera file, you're going to be absolutely sure that you're going to capture that and be able to use that when you take it into Resolve. So that's essentially all I wanted to go over here. And it was nice that, Marcel, you had some extra questions that I could touch on for Gyroflow. Yeah, that's essentially it. Let's talk about delivery. So I'm going to close this guy. Bring open my super fat, ginormous, chunky. Yeah, let's, before I do that, hold on. So these are, oh, that's another thing I want to say. So I was doing the endurance test for my Helion, and I recorded, because I had the bit rate higher, and it was like 15 minutes or something like that. There's 2 different chapters for this one video, and they both contain gyro information. When you get something like this and you want to stabilize it in Gyroflow, just take the first one, make sure they're in the same directory, right? So this is GX020046, and this is GX010046. So you want to make sure they're in the same folder, take the first one, drop it in Gyroflow, and Gyroflow will immediately ask you, do you want to join these together before stabilizing? That is the only way. Joining them using, you know, a multi-track aware tool like Gyroflow, and there's some open source things that can do it as well. That's the only way you're going to get continuity between the gyro data. If you just tack the files onto each other, the gyro data won't line up, and there'll be a shift at the point where the files broke. But Gyroflow does a really good job of losslessly joining them together into one big ass 33.7 gig file. So we'll drop that on there. So this one, we're not worried too much about the grade. We're talking about delivery. So this is 4K timeline. Fat face. And chill that out here. You guys hear that? Don't hear that. Okay. So this is a 4K timeline, 8K export, and we'll look at the metadata for this. I think I did. Yeah, this is an H.265. So 306 megabit per second average, with a peak of 944 megabit per second, and 444 chroma subsampling, 10-bit color. Because remember, it's 16-bit during processing, and then it truncates it to 10-bit when it writes. So it's 0.384 bits per pixel per frame. So it's pretty skookum, but it's still the same Rec 709. But it is also maintains a full color range, which is unique to GoPro GP log. If you just record regular video, you're going to get what's called limited. Basically, it keeps the shadows and highlights from getting blown out. It saves a little bit of data. But so yeah, we've got our enormous AK file here. I could probably trim it. Have to be enormous. We're more focused on delivery here. Oh, I already did that. Good job, stupid. Okay. So we'll pull this over here. No. Okay, it is a ganged timeline. The viewer. Come on, man. Where is it? Wait, I gotta close that. There we go. Okay. I get the giant UI is just something that confounds me because everything is different. Like they've done a really great job of making it accessible if you have, if you have those needs where you have to really increase it. It shifts things around. It uses different icons in different places. And also, if you have multiple people that work on the same workstation, if somebody has theirs set to 200%, they have different preferences than the person using 100%. So like my effects favorites aren't in Resolve when I'm at 200%. It's really weird, but so let me just trim this a little bit here. I'm just gonna throw a quick grade on there just to pretend like we're doing something cool. Come on, all the way back. There we go. Let's see. No, these are already white balanced. So we'll do our 3. Oh, wait. That's why it looks like ass. Hey, Donnie, what's up, bud? Thanks for stopping in, man. There we go. Pivot to 1, contrast to taste. There we go. Ta-da! We're done. See, I did it all in one node, 3 sliders. After that is just kind of icing on the cake. Blah, 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 to the delivery tab, or deliver tab. So, I usually do a couple of deliveries. You can obviously use H.265 or H.264 for YouTube. It's going to take a little bit long, or a little bit longer to process than if you use DNxHR, especially if it's HDR. And I will talk about that in a minute. I'm gonna tell you guys a gatekeep industry secret on how to grade HDR with an HDR monitor, and I can tell you how to do it almost immediately. I don't even need to show you. So I think most people are using H.264, H.265. H.264, I don't know if it is supporting. No, it does not necessarily support 10-bit color. So even if you're not doing an HDR grade, you want to select main 10. Don't use 444 or 444 10-bit. YouTube will shit the bed. And also, you won't be able to play this on any device. No iPhones, no Macs, no PCs. That they just don't play. Main 10 is very standard. And then instead of using the automatic profile for best, I just restrict it to something like 600 and 900 kilobits per second, and it will automatically select the profile and pixel format accordingly, so you don't have to dick around with all that stuff like it did in Gyroflow. Network optimization will help processing in YouTube go a little bit quicker, especially if you're gonna try to play this file off of a server, on your TV or something like that. This helps streaming the file. Network optimization does. And you don't necessarily need to select the encoder, but if you have NVIDIA, I would use NVIDIA. Otherwise, it's going to use CPU. And like I said, you'll be here for a week. I just leave it at auto, and it's always used my GPUs. Everything down here you can pretty much leave as it is. Variable bit rate is the standard for H.265 or HEVC. You can use constant bit rate, but it's out of spec for the file format, and I don't know how things like YouTube are gonna deal with that. So I usually just leave it at variable bit rate. And then obviously you got to name your file and all that fun stuff. Okay, and you come out with an MP4 that you can play on any device. It might be a little big, like to stream over your network or whatever, or to copy to your phone. If it's going to be something you're going to copy to your phone, then you can just switch that over to best. It's a minimal quality decrease, but it's a significant file size decrease. So this, usually I will kick out one of these for the file that I'm going to keep on my network. Now, for the file I'm going to upload to YouTube, I'm going to change the format from MP4 to QuickTime, and I'm going to change the codec to DNxHR, high resolution. And by default, it's going to select that 444 12-bit. This is YouTube's favorite codec. It processes this really fast, even for HDR. So usually, like, even the problem is the files are huge, as we saw. So, like, good example. Let me export this. We'll see how big it is. First off, how long is it? So it's just over a minute, right? Minute 13 seconds. I'll do 2 just for giggles. So I'll do this one first. Let me put it on the fast drive here. Just code. All right, blah, blah, blah. We're not using AV1. AV1 is cool. It's not supported everywhere. It is better quality per for the compression than H.265. It's also open source, so it will eventually have a lot of adoption in more consumer devices. AV1 is mostly the codec used by like Netflix for streaming and stuff like that, for them to be able to save storage and bandwidth. Okay, so that's done. We'll just kick that over there in the queue. And then I'm just gonna, because the file extension is gonna change. When I change it to QuickTime, it's gonna be MOV instead of MP4. And then I can just hit add render to queue. And we're gonna have testencode.mp4 and testencode.mov. I'll make sure neither of them are selected, and I'll hit render all. And it'll kick those out pretty quick. A little bit sluggish because it's an 8K file, but I also didn't do a whole lot to it, so that should speed it up. So looking like 45 frames per second or so. Good times. And then we'll take a look at the files and the differences in the files from a metadata standpoint. On the stream, you're not going to be able to see the difference in the stream. But for uploading to YouTube, DNxHR is the best bet. YouTube converts it really quickly. It doesn't screw it up and doesn't add any additional compression artifacts to it. You can have the highest bitrate H.265, I swear to Jeebus, and if you upload that shit to YouTube, they're going to put macro blocks all over it because it's going to become a compressed copy of a compressed copy, and you're giving up data in that final pipeline before it's actually visible to your audience. The general rule of thumb for things like YouTube, Vimeo, and these other video sites is the better quality file you give them, the better quality transcode they give you back for things like, you know, how you can change YouTube to like 480p or 720p or 1080p or whatever, right? They get the different versions of the same file that are transcoded. The better the source file, the better those transcodes get. It's hanging on storage. Come on, little guy, you can do it. And export out to that SSD because over the network this takes forever, even though my network's super fast. Not as fast as my SSD, not yet. Okay, so we'll take a quick gander here at these two files. Where'd they go? So looking at the H.265, 752 megs, right? And it's also 420. It's 420, and that's one of the reasons why it takes long to encode is 420 10-bit. but we've thrown away a lot of that chroma detail that YouTube could have used for the transcode. This is 11.8 gigs for a minute and 13 seconds of video. So when I I have found the upper limit for file size for uploading to YouTube, and it's 250 gigs. My audio went nuts. What? Oh, right. Let me take a look here. Yeah, that's because I was using the GPU for encoding. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So the DNxHR, more than 11 times, maybe 12, 13 times larger. So you need to have gobs of storage if you're going to use them. But also, this is why I do 2 copies. This is the one I'm going to keep. This 752 meg one. This would be the one I'd throw up on my server, right? Like with all my other stuff, because I'm a data hoarder. Like if there was a episode of Hoarders that was for data, it would be for people like me, because I keep absolutely everything that I generate. My wife does as well. She has every raw file, every raw photo she's ever shot stored on the server. And instead of deleting stuff, we just buy more storage. We need a 12-step group. Yeah, sorry, man. Usually, I can get away with... Well, yeah. So DNxHR uses the CPU. It does use the GPU a little bit, but it's nowhere near as GPU-centric as H.265. So cranking up my CPU to max probably caused me to drop a bunch of frames, and audio got fucked up. So apologies. I'll keep that in mind for next time. But yes, that smaller file, that 700 meg file, would be the one that I keep. And once I'm done with my upload, then I will come back to my fast storage, wherever that is, and I'm just going to delete that file. I can't play it locally anyway, for whatever reason. I know the low, like DNxHR HQ and HQSQ you can play, but the 444 12-bit doesn't play on anything that I have. And I've got like all the extra codecs and everything like that. So I don't know. It breaks. All the ProRes stuff plays fine. Even the 444 XQ Extreme, Turbo Extreme Super Encode Time, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. So, yeah. You want to encode for where you're trying to deliver to, right? I mean, if you're like me and you keep the source files, if I need to make another big-ass file like that, I can just go back into Resolve and hit render again. That's kind of the nice thing of, like, you know, being a data hoarder. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. This is the server right here. We still got 14.4 terabytes free. And it's fast too. And then I've got a number of drives. I've got 1 terabyte NVMe there. 4 terabyte flash there. 14.5 terabyte data disk, was just garbage. Just want to put my Steam games and shit. 2 terabyte boot disk. Yeah, so, you know, this usual shit. Yeah, this is strictly for my downloads. Like, anytime I download the thing, just goes on this drive. It's just all garbage. So, fun times. Oh, I thought these got cut. Stock footage I was using for AI animation I'm working on. I think I posted that. I posted the concept, the draft in general on the Discord, in case you want to take a look at it. It's really low quality, and I'm not happy with it, but just before I had to start the stream, I finally got to where I wanted to be with the look. And so when we're done here, I'm going to hit render, and it should hopefully be done before I have to go to work tomorrow, because I'll need to use my computer for something else. So, let's see here. Anything else? Delivery. Oh, HDR. Okay, here's a cheat. Okay. This might not look right on my monitor, but it should work good enough for you guys. There is a... Oh, too much Jello. Yeah. Yeah, that'll do it, dude. Sorry to hear that. I like Jello. It's very yummy, especially when it's really, really cold. So let's talk HDR. YouTube specifically supports both types of HDR, and when I say both types, there's God, I can't remember what PQ stands for. Let me look it up real quick here. HDR. There we go. Transfer function. What does it stand for? Perceptual quantizer. So PQ is the kind of HDR you watch when you watch something that's not Dolby Vision on like Netflix or Amazon, just regular old HDR, HDR10 or HDR10 plus. That's going to be a PQ grade. And if you had the source file of that and you played it on your regular machine, it would look really, really flat. Like you played it on an SDR display, it would just look flat, grayed out, dark, right? It wouldn't look very good at all. There's a different type of HDR technology called hybrid log gamma, or HLG. And the beauty of HLG is it plays properly on all kinds of displays. It automatically tone maps itself. So if you have up to a limit, right? You have to actually specify what the brightest value is. Most of the time it's going to be 1,000 nits. There's very little reason outside of Hollywood to go above 1,000 nits. It'll properly map the gamma for the display it's on, without any kind of settings tweaks or having different files. Because like I'd like to do PQ grade, so I'll have an SDR grade as well, and so I'll end up having to maintain separate files. Sometimes I'll do an HLG grade, but so there's two ways you can go about doing this. We're going to use this piece of footage here. So first thing, I'm going to go in my project settings, and I'm going to change my output color space to HDR HLG, and I'm leave that set to mastering for 1,000 nits, and my color processing mode to HDR. So in general, you can leave this on HDR even if you're doing SDR. This just means your timeline intermediate color space is going to be wide. It's going to be big, as opposed to SDR, which means you're going to be working inside of Rec 709, which you don't necessarily want to do. You want to have access to every color until you finally have to get rid of what you can't put into Rec 709, and that's going to give you greater signal integrity throughout your pipeline. We talked about it, I think it was last time, we talked about doing manual color management. This is kind of the same sort of way, but it's automatic, and you don't have to specify your color space transforms, or like what color space your input is, except for one thing. I'm gonna teach you guys that here in a little bit. So I'm gonna set that to HLG, hit save. Not a whole lot changes. Now these got a little darker when I changed that. And let me see if I can do that again. So change that back to SDR. Watch this viewer over here on the right. See how I got a little bit brighter, a little bit more saturated? And this, I don't know if it's a bug. It shouldn't actually change at all. But if I change it to HLG, it gets darker and less saturated. Now, if I left it like this, and I went and fixed the grade, like I went over here and I did what I needed to do to make it look like it did, when I encode it, it's going to look like ass. Okay? We're not seeing the way it's supposed to look here. We need to make sure we're seeing the way it's supposed to look here before we encode the file. So I'm just going to hit reset on that node. Here's the cheat. Okay, this is, by any standard, by any measure, this is a regular Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 video file. This is the same color space and gamma that comes right off the GoPro, comes off of most cameras, right? And Resolve for SDR, you don't have to specify that at all. and it's still configured. If I go down here to input color space, it's still configured as Rec 709, Rec 709 scene, which is automatic. But we actually want, in order to get it to look like it did when we were actually working, when our delivery color space was Rec 709, we're going to go down to HLG and select Rec 709 HLG Arab. And then the gamma is going to come back up. And from here, now we can go ahead and grade just like we would normally. Just like if we were just doing a regular Rec 709. We are going to lose a little bit of saturation, but that saturation actually comes back in HDR. So you can add a little bit, right? And now if I encode it, it's going to look pretty much like this. The caveat to that is grading for HDR without an HDR color space or without an HDR monitor. If you look at the scopes above my head here, you can see here's my 1000 nit line. I got all kinds of shit smashed up against there, and that's a giant no-no. Looks fine up here, right? But we don't really want to have that smashed up there because there's the actual sun, those little peaks. That's where the sun is. That's the brightest thing in the scene, okay? And so pull that contrast down. And what we'll do is I'm going to reset the pivot, and then I'm going to bring the offset down until it's basically centered in this logarithmic scale. And then I'll pull the contrast up until either the sun hits 1000 nits or we start digging into 1 nit or below. Okay. And then if you look, it looks pretty good, right? Could add a little bit more saturation. Again, I'm really shortcutting this because I'm not concerned about the actual node tree or the grade. I'm concerned about the actual encode. Here's the rub. In HDR, if your white balance is off even a little bit, okay, if it's like there, right, it'll look fine here on the screen. I mean, it looks a little blue here, but when you encode it, it's going to look like effervescent shit stain. And if you spent the time to encode a DNxHR 444 file and you spent the time to upload that shit and you spent the time to wait for it to transcode and you finally get to see the HDR version and it looks like garbage, that's why. HDR will absolutely punish you if your white balance is off even a little bit. And this is why there'll be times when I won't do an HDR grade because I know I didn't have my card out, my little color calibration chart. I didn't pull that chart out. You know, I wasn't in a place where I knew the environment well. I knew what was supposed to be right in real life. And, you know, I kind of have to wing it. And you can't eyeball white balance for SDR material. For HDR, you're not eyeballing shit. It has to be mathematically perfect or you're going to get punished. But there's a way around that. Okay. Here's how you get around that. So I'm going to go ahead and reset this node grade. And then I'm going to change back to Rec 709. And I got to go back and change this back to Rec 709. So I'll just set it to project. Okay. Then I'll come back here. I'll do my regular bullshit. My 3 slider correction, contrasted taste. Okay, good enough. Maybe toss a little bit of saturation on there. And then from here, like let's say I did my whole node tree. Just pretend I actually gave a shit. Okay. From here, I'm just going to export a regular ass file. Regular Rec 709 file. Okay. Just like we've been doing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here and let me see if I've got one handy. Well, I got one of these. Okay. Whatever. Come on, you big fat jerk. There we go. Okay. So we got this right here. Okay. So let's pretend this was my grade, right? It's just my regular old Rec 709 file. Let me make sure this is okay. Regular Rec 709 file. My edit and everything. It's got music. It's perfect. It's beautiful. It's ready to go, but I want it to be in HDR for YouTube. So I exported my big old DNxHR 100,000 gig file, and now I'm bringing that right back into Resolve. And now that I've brought it back into Resolve, I'm going to change my color space back to HLG. Remember, output color space. We're just leave the color processing mode on HDR the whole time. And remember, it gets a little bit dark. So we're going to go in and change the input color space from Rec 709 to HLG Rec 709. And then I'm not going to do anything else to it. I'm just going to hit go. I'm going to hit encode. And the file that comes out of it will look fine. Even if the white balance was off a little bit in the original file, once it's been encoded into Rec 709, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room to have these errant colors just come out of nowhere. Because that's what it's going to look like. If your white balance is off and you do the grade in HDR, but you can't actually see it in HDR, you know, you upload it and all of a sudden you'll be like, where's this green glow around the sun coming from? Or why does the sun look like it's made out of ice? Right? Those are because there's extra color information that you can't see that's still there. But when we encode it to Rec 709, we're just getting rid of all the bullshit that we can't see. So then when we come back and go through an HLG, and remember, if we look at, okay, well, anyway, it's going to come out as Rec 2020 HLG, not Rec 709 HLG. You can use either. I don't know. This is the easiest way to do it. Just take your footage that you just encoded in Rec 709, your regular grade, right? You spent all the time on it. It's got the music, it's got the cuts, it's got your logos and everything. It's the done file. It's what normally you would take and upload to YouTube. Now you bring that back into Resolve. You change your color space to HLG and you encode it again. That's the file you upload. DaVinci Resolve seems to be complicating. Yeah, I mean, it's not so much Resolve. The same kind of punishment would happen if you were doing an HDR grade in Premiere. If your white balance is off, it's going to come out in the wash, right? You're not necessarily going to be able to see it unless you have an HDR display. So this little kind of, you know, circular cheat allows you to take the opportunity to throw away the shit you can't see and use only the colors that you can see, which is the colors that you used in the reference when you graded your footage the first time. So then even if your white balance was a little bit off, you're not going to get these weird colors coming out of nowhere. That is just going to make everything look like garbage. And without an HDR monitor, you can then take this file, upload it to YouTube, and you'll have an HDR delivery. It will look good in SDR. It will look good in HDR. And that same file, you can play anywhere. You can play it on an SDR display on a computer or laptop or whatever. You can play it on an HDR display. You can play it on your TV. You can play it on your phone. Yeah, so that's the big HDR cheat. Now, I have an HDR grading monitor over here that's currently set up as a PC monitor, but it's connected to my Blackmagic card. So normally I'm actually doing PQ and I have my reference monitor over there. And then I have another monitor. It's going to go up there. It's sitting back over here, but it's going to be just for scopes. So I'm excited for that. I don't know what the hell Crisp is doing. I'm being stupid. So that is what I've got for you kids this week. Went a little long, which is good. It was good. Yeah, so a lot to play with. Dig into Gyroflow. See what your machine is capable of. You know, the super intense, big file, high bit rate, 444 chroma subsampling, not going to be for everybody. Wouldn't try it on a 2016 MacBook Pro, let's put it that way. Your mileage is going to vary. I can tell you that much right now. But I think one of the things you guys might get excited to try is doing some HDR tests. One of the best things about YouTube is that it's free and you can upload videos that are private only to you. So you can take a very small clip. The smaller the clip, the faster it processes. The smaller the clip, the faster it processes. The faster it processes. And then you'll be able to actually get that feedback. Another thing you can do if you've got a late model phone, Android or iPhone, you can just copy it over your phone and watch it there. It'll play in HDR, and you'll be able to see if it's good or if it's shit. So YouTube's a great way to get feedback. Your phone is a great tool if you have an HDR TV, like in your living room, and you've got some kind of player that you can play shit off the network. I mean, that obviously we're getting kind of complex at that point. That's another great tool to use. I mean, we're talking about checking your grade with uncalibrated displays. I would say Samsung and iPhone have good calibrated displays. OnePlus, well, I mean, Samsung makes the display for almost everybody. Hey, Raid Squad, what's up, dude? We're just kind of wrapping things up right now. So you might want to roll back and we had a number of videos we watched in the beginning. So roll back and have a look at those. And we went in a little bit of detail on some of the finer details, Gyroflow. And then we talked about final encoding your files and maintaining signal integrity. And then this chick showed up on my computer. I don't know where she came from. And then I talked about HLG HDR grading and a little cheat you can use to get a half decent HLG HDR grade without an HDR monitor for uploading to like YouTube. Now, if you tell any other colorist that I told you that, we're not going to be friends anymore, because that's a big secret. Shh, secret. Just us girls here, right? Yeah. So easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now, one of the things you can do, so on my color page, my scopes are always set to HDR. If you, where the fuck is it? Waveform scale style. So by default, it's going to be set to 10-bit, where 0's obviously darkest and 1023 is going to be white, right? Wouldn't bother with 12-bit. Nobody grades in 12-bit except for people using Dolby Vision. That's none of us, I guarantee you. Oh yeah, no worries, Rain Squad. HDR is sort of the same thing as, well, that's actually what I use. And then, so video level scopes will show you the more truncated the video level is for broadcasting. We don't have to worry about that. You just want to make sure that you accommodate for it. If you're going to deliver full levels, you need to work in full levels and view in full levels. Otherwise, you'll end up with crushed shadows or you'll end up with gray shadows. So you want to come over here, little 3-dot menu above your scopes, waveform scale style, set that bitch to HDR. Then you'll get your luminance value in nits. And this is important when you're grading for actual luminance, like emitted light. It's a different mindset than just looking at the value of whiteness or brightness of a pixel, right? Or you know, the commanded brightness of a pixel. Like if it's 512, that's half as bright as, you know, 1024. But it's just math at that point. When we start talking about nits, we're talking about, you know, it's going to be a completely different power requirement for, say, an iPhone to show something at 1000 nits than, say, a 75-inch TV to show something at 1000 nits. So basically these scopes are giving a command to the display to make the pixel a certain physical brightness. So doing this little HLG thing, as you're dicking around with it, keep your scopes in your HDR mode, right? 1000 nits typically is white, and then, you know, between 1 and 0 is going to be perceived as black. But keep these in there, and then you can start to read these scopes. So skin tones, you want them to be around 70. And you notice here, like this line is 1, this line is 10, this line is 100. So 10 is twice as bright as 1, 100 is twice as bright as 10, and 1000 is twice as bright as 100. It's logarithmic, just like wattage. Now, perceptually, that's very different. But when we're talking about absolute light level, that's the way it works. Science! So once you get really proficient at reading these scopes, and then you start things like understanding where skin tone should lie, like how bright is skin supposed to be, about 70 nits. Even colorists that have calibrated HDR displays are going to tell you about 70 nits, because everybody has a different luminance value in their skin. So you don't want to take an African American person and crank their skin up to 70 nits, because everything else is going to be white, right? But that's kind of like the basic ballpark area where you want to put skin tones. And then, your highlights, you want your highlights to roll off smooth like this. You don't want them to be smashed up against the top. But you can start to understand and read these scopes, and then you can even try your hand at a PQ grade, totally ignoring what's happening in this display and only working on the scopes. It's kind of like IFR for pilots, right? It's instrumentation flight only. So yeah, kind of exciting. You want to do color grading on hard mode? Do a PQ grade without an HDR monitor. Fun times. Hey, what's up, Hexy? Yeah, no worries, dude. It'll be there to watch, to listen to whatever. Welcome to my podcast. Yeah, any questions from the crew here, please drop them in the chat. Por favor. And I have a feeling if I close Resolve, it's going to freak out on me. I'm going to take a little sippy sip while that 25-second delay rolls around. Oh, one more thing about HDR displays. My main computer monitor is an HDR display. I have it in HDR mode. Windows finally got around to unfucking HDR, so great. On Windows, the viewports... Is she single? What? Man, see, that fucking delay, I've already spaced off, and I have no idea what you're referring to, so sorry about that. Anyway, on Windows and DaVinci Resolve, they refuse to allow the viewports to be in HDR. The biggest reason is because everybody knows the GPU will affect the image. It doesn't matter how expensive it is, how good the drivers are. It's going to affect the image. So this is why Blackmagic wants you to have one of their output cards, so that they can be absolutely sure that the image that you're seeing is the image that's actually being worked on, and it's not being massaged somehow. On Mac OS, DaVinci Resolve can be in HDR. The viewports can be in HDR. There's a setting for it. However, caveat, it's probably not going to be accurate. Probably accurate enough for us. We're not, most of us aren't doing Hollywood shit, so it'll probably be good enough for government work. But if you want to do HDR on Windows, you need, I think there's a Thunderbolt, like external encoder type thing you can get, but I have the PCI Express card. And yeah, my background pick, one of my many AI generations, and there's another one. I like to do them high resolution. I've found some new and interesting ways to do it without any artifacts, maintaining massive amounts of detail. These are actually old, though. I've gotten better than this. I know everything that's wrong with it, but yeah, it's just for me. So, lights my face nice, though, doesn't it? Yeah, any questions from the chat? Hit me up. Let me know. And yes. So be sure to go have a look in the general channel. I dropped a draft of my latest AI project. I'm hoping to get rendered tonight. I don't really like the way the draft looks, but I wanted to share it anyway, just to show you guys what I've been cooking up. I've been chefing a little bit, if you will. And mostly, I haven't really been able to get out and fly that much. And so I've been kind of doing anything I can to take old footage and make it new again. Throwing some AI on it. It's a really great way to do that. I'm just trying to keep the content going. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Put a little bow on it. Dock this showboat. Piss on this fire. The questions are too private for the YouTube. Fair enough, man. You can go ahead and slide right into my DMs. I have no plan for next week. We're done with color grading 101. Everybody should be a professional level colorist now and should be picking up their Hollywood job anytime this week. That's exactly how it works, right? So think of some stuff that you would like me to work on next week. If it's some of your footage, if it's some of my footage, if it's just a concept you want me to go over, if you want me to rehash some stuff that I went over during Color Grading 101, whatever it is, I exist to help you guys get better. And, you know, he who teaches learns twice, so I get better in the process. So please feel free, drop your footage in the submissions folder or whatever, or DM me or what have you. Oh, he is DMing me. What the fuck is this? Oh, my bad. Yes, I did miss it. No, absolutely not. It did not offend me. I did miss it. I'm sorry. Yes. So, think about what you might want to see me tackle next week, and stay tuned. I hope to have some news about the old color grading contest soonish. May as well trademark the word soon. Yeah, so we'll see how that works out for you guys. Otherwise, thank you very much for hanging out with me for the last hour and 37 minutes. I very much appreciate it. I appreciate all the questions and the comments. And thank you very much, Bart. Appreciate that. And I guess I will see you next week. Maybe? Oh, hey, real quick. Let me see if I can do this here. No, not right now. Okay. We'll talk about it when we get home. Yeah, so I will see you guys next week. And again, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for all of your comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. Picking up what I'm putting down. Good. I'm glad. You know, I'm not expecting anybody to pick up all of it. And I'm very fucking random, as you guys have probably figured by now. I can go off on a tangent like crazy. But I try to stick to the point. And so I'm glad you guys are getting something out of it. Sometimes I feel a little weird because sometimes I feel like I'm going fast, and you know, Flexo really kind of gave me a very humbling point, which triggered the whole creation of the Color Grading 101 lesson plan. Was that I was doing, you know, I was kicking the game off with some fairly advanced shit, and I was just kind of blasting through it. And he was like, you know, not in so many words, but he was like, bro, slow the fuck down. And so I was like, oh shit. So that's why I came up with the supposedly 8-week lesson plan. And I'm grateful for that feedback. So if you have any other feedback, please keep it to yourself. Thanks. My ego can't handle it. No, I'm just playing. Always happy to help out. So again, if there's anything you want me to specifically go over, just let me know in the Discord, and I'll see you guys next week. Cool. Let me turn my music back on here. Okay. Bye. 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 Bye, guys.